at the end of the day, what did the front office do? They did nothing. They didn't overreact. They didn't come out and have to put out a statement and reacting to what Rich Paul said or reacting to what LeBron. Nothing. They just kind of left it as is. I'm sure they had a lot of behind-the-scenes conversations. This is where we are. This is where we're going. Bron, understand that you're going to be in your 8th year as a Los Angeles Laker. This is the longest he's ever spent with one team at a time. Lakers have done their part. I mean, I think we could all agree with that. Okay, let's get some more comments in here. Luka hanging out with Aaron Judge. Saw that. When is Brad coming to the show to talk some Lakers? It's a good question right there. We'll get him back on. Once I get back into that studio, we'll do it again. Let's see here. Bryce is going to be drafted by the Lakers. Okay, that's enough then. If we're in the Bryce is going to be drafted by the Lakers business, then it's time for me to keep him moving here. Could happen. I don't know. I have a difficult time thinking that that's going to happen. Did you guys see this story? And I think I mentioned to everybody, this has a little bit to do. Trevor Lane, who does obviously a great job, Lakers Nation, was doing one of his YouTube shows and kind of brought up a conversation when he was doing his Lakers Nation podcast. Brought up a conversation I think is going to a little interesting. And I think this kind of drives back to what happened yesterday with my chat. Some time talking about Robert Williams and should the Lakers go make a run for him? Should they make a play for him? There was some chatter that he could potentially be available. If he is available, what kind of trade package would the Lakers give to Portland to go try to grab him? They're probably going to ask for Dalton Connect. They're going to probably ask for some young pieces, an expiring contract. You got to ask for an expiring contract to make the deal work, and maybe a second rounder or something along those lines. But the idea and the concept of Robert Williams III, I think, was more importantly the conversation. The conversation had more to do with, can the Lakers use another center? Can they use another big? Okay, we know they needed a center, period. They went out and got DeAndre Ayton. They brought back Jackson Hayes. So now technically you have two centers. But if you look at the structure of the NBA today, the bigs are making a little bit of a return. Now, maybe they're being used a little bit different. It's not back to the basket and just throw the ball. Somebody posts up and they're shooting 15-footers all night. Okay, it's not Patrick Ewing or Akeem Olajuwon or anything like that. The way bigs are being used today is different. But the conversation for the Lakers was, do you think you need to go get another big? I like the idea and I like the concept. Now, what do you give up? Robert Williams III, we know his injury history. The guy's only played 61 games in the last 3 seasons. So I think you have some hesitation there. But the one thing that I noticed, and I think it continues to be a conversation, and this is going to tie us into Nikola Vucevic of the Chicago Bulls, the idea of going to go get another big, maybe that is some interest in the Lakers. I mean, I think right now, if you ask me, what do they need? Would you rather have another big or would you rather have Gabe Vincent? Would you rather have another big or would you rather have Dalton Connect? I know there's some trade conversations out there about Maxi Kleber, so the question is going to be his health. So this was a conversation that Trevor was having, and I'm going to read something from him here and a scenario to try to get Nikola Vucevic, who, by the way, listen, he's 34 years old. I think he's 35 by the time next season starts. He's got a birthday in late October, so keep that in mind. I know we're not all watching Chicago Bulls games, but the guy does put up numbers. So his stats are still there. Now, I know sometimes it depends. I think stats can be a little bit deceiving, but this man's still putting up 18 points and 10 rebounds a game, plus 3.5 assists. He shoots 40% from the three-point line. So it's not like he can't play. The dude can play. The question is going to be, is that the style of player that you want? Is that a player that you want to target? At that age, obviously, you're only going to have him for a year. Do you want him at that age? Do you want that style of player? And is this somebody that you're willing to give up some draft assets, or not even draft assets? Is this somebody you're willing to give up assets for in a one-year rental, I guess you can call him? So let me read here what Trevor Lane said. By the way, Trevor Lane coming on tomorrow. He'll be on tomorrow. This is what he said. Let's say they really don't want to give up future second round in order just to jettison some salary. One option could be to waive and stretch the salary of Gabe Vincent or Maxi Kleber. You can do that with either guy. So the question becomes, would that be the preferred path rather than give up the second-round pick, have $3.6 million in dead money sitting on your books. So one way for the Lakers to get him, one of the ideas, one of the concepts was, by the way, they don't have a roster spot available. So this is kind of one of the main reasons of trying to get Vucevic. One of the main reasons he gets bought out. Now you're trying to figure out from a asset perspective, and also from a perspective of freeing up a roster spot. That's kind of what Trevor Lane is talking about. He's bringing up different ways, I guess you can call it different, trying to be creative and finding a way to do so. I would say this. The whole dead money sitting on the books, I'm not a fan of at all. I think what the Milwaukee Bucks did with Damian Lillard to have that much dead money on their books, that sounds like that's going to hurt them down the road. I think they're like 22 million, 19 to 20 million, 19 to 22 million. They're going to have dead money for the next 5 years. Bradley Beal, dead money for Phoenix. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think there's a little bit of a desperation play for both of those franchises. I think in regards to the Lakers, 3.6 is not a lot, but I don't want dead money on the books. It just does not sound like, it's almost like you're grabbing a credit card. And the problem is, it's not like you have endless amount of money that you can spend. No, that sits on your books. If you got $3.6 million in dead money for 3 years, I mean, that's $3.6 million every single year for the next 3 years that you just can't spend. It's gone. It's dead. I'd rather give up a second rounder and this is under the assumption that you think Vucevic is the right fit. You think he's the right player. You think he could help the Lakers this year, that you feel like that would be the second big that you go to, obviously, on the Lakers team. If you start Ayton and then you have him, maybe there's times they play together because Vucevic can stretch the floor a little bit. Ayton can as well, but not as much as Vucevic can. I think that the questions that are being thrown out there is, if he's the right player, if you think he's the right fit, if you think he would be a good addition to the Lakers, and you got to be creative, I'm rather giving up a second rounder than dead money. I'm just not a fan of the strategy of using dead money, and I think most teams who use it is a little bit more in desperation mode. All right, let's see what we got here. The nice idea with Vooch is always you run two big lineups with a lob threat in Jackson at the 4. You would have that. You know, he's a legit. Listen, 40% 3-point shooter is especially for a big. That's a really, really nice average to have. All right, let me get a couple more in this year. Isn't Bronny being looked at as an asset now? So why wouldn't Bryce be a good thing? Maybe draft Luka's dad. All right, let's see what we got here. Let's see. Let's see what we got here. Watch. All right, a lot of people still on the Bryce topic. We're not doing the Bryce. Can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think with Vucevic, I'm going to go back to the same thing that I was saying a little bit earlier. At the end of the day, I think the thing that makes most sense to me is, can the Lakers use another big? And I think the answer to that is yes. I do think they can use another big. So I think when the dust settles, you're thinking about from a big perspective, I would say yes. I do think the Lakers can use another big, whether that's a Robert Williams, whether that's a Vucevic, whatever that is. Yes, I do think the Lakers can use another big. Thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.